don't see how we can make bigger enemies.
To be offended or frightened of everything.
So you've become like the sort of Tony Scarface of podcasting.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the morning show.
Hola.
Poseidon over there jumping in. If you haven't done so already, head on over to patreon.com/Pantelis. Do us a favor. There's a lot of content over there. Sometimes before it goes live on this platform, it is on the Patreon. So do yourself a favor. Subscribe to Patreon. Very reasonable pricing, right, Poseidon? It's not very much
Depends
expensive.
what you consider reasonable in today's.
Well, I've seen plans that are really.
Are there prices, or do you just give what you want?
Yeah, well, no, there's packages. I think there's different packages, and I think it's. I think they're more than fair. I'm assuming if you're live here today, you're probably subscribed to the YouTube channel. But if you're new, head on over and subscribe. Do us a favor. Let's grow this little channel. Poseidon over at the control board. He's producing, and in front of me, the broadcasting legend himself, Ted Bird. You can also catch him on his own hit podcast, Terry and Ted, Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast. And you can also catch him every morning on the radio.
Light 106.7, 106.7 FM, online at light1067.ca, on the iHeartRadio app, and on your smart speaker. I got a call this morning, or a text, from a longtime friend and former colleague of mine, Orla Johannes. Do you know who I mean by Orla?
I've
Beautiful,
met her.
beautiful
She's
blonde bombshell.
Such a nice lady.
Yeah, she's a wonderful lady.
Sweet girl, yeah.
Yeah,
What's her name? Sorry,
Orla Johannes.
Orla Johannes. She married a rich Greek guy. And she sent me a text. Actually, she texted me yesterday and she said, I can't get your radio station in my new piece of shit Porsche. In the old Porsche, she could get our radio station, but when she puts in our frequency in the new Porsche, she gets 106.7 out of New York. So she was quite upset. And I said, well, it comes in just fine in my 2013 Volkswagen. Orla, I think buying a piece of shit 2024 Porsche, there's your problem right there.
She's so funny. She's good.
She's an absolute hoot. And, and you know what? She's the first person to make fun of herself.
Where is she? She's on. She's still doing radio, no?
She has a show on CJD, I think, a Sunday afternoon show. Her and another girl who married into money. They both have. They have a lifestyle show. Andrea Elias.
That's it.
Yeah, and they're both lovely gals. Yeah. And I don't think either one of them would deny that they married into money. And I think they're both happily married by all appearances. And I've met both husbands. They're both nice guys. Yeah, and Orla's the first one to make fun of herself too for being a trophy wife.
She's so funny.
Yeah, she's blonde and she's beautiful and I don't know if there's an original part left on her. And, and again, she'd be the first one to laugh at that. That's what I love about Orla. Orla's got humility. She's a lovely gal.
I can't remember what event we used to be invited to every year. She used to host it. Anyways, it doesn't matter. But I remember all the men over there. They're like, "Oh, let's take a selfie." And I'm like, "Fuck, guys, it's a little too obvious." You know what I mean? All right, she's hot. Yeah. Let's just leave it at that. You know, she's Australian, I think. And I remember her when she had.
She's English.
Oh,
she's English. Yeah, I used to think she was South African.
Oh,
yeah, her accent's a little bit. It's a strange kind of.
My
an
God,
accent.
I was convinced it was Australian.
No,
okay.
I think she grew up in England, and I believe her parents are Irish. They live in Tipperary, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she sounds anything but British.
Yeah. Well, no, she sounds like some kind of a UK or British Commonwealth accent. But anyway, she's.
I think she had started doing the weather. I think I remember her. No, or the traffic. What was she doing? I can't remember what she was doing. But anyway, enough about Orla. Yeah, that was a
That's
funny
the
story.
Orla segment of the show. Good morning, Orla. I hope you're listening. She's at the gym right now.
Probably, yeah.
Listening, watching, right? We're only on the tube of you.
We're
right?
only on the tube of you. Yes. Speaking of accents, I thought about you the other day. I don't know if you remember the first episode where you made reference to Tony Marinero. And you're like me, I, with the classic Montreal Italian kind of accent there.
Yeah.
On Monday there was a provincial by-election, and it's in the riding of Jean Talon. Jean Talon it's in the Quebec City region.
Yep.
So this is a kid. He's an Italian. He's an Italian guy, and he's
The guy who won?
No. The guy. Sorry, I missed the part of the story where I ran into this Italian kid.
Oh, okay.
That he's not really involved, but he kind of is. He's like in and out, whatever, But he's always around. And he's like, and I hadn't seen him for a while. Hey, George. I'm like, yeah, go ahead. It's going well. You, long time. The typical back and forth kind of thing. And I'm like, hey, the by-election in Jean Talon, you're going to be watching that today? Oh, Ming, George, I didn't know, man. Okay, I'm going to be at Cafe Milano. Maybe I'll catch some of the action. I'm like, no, not Jean Talon on the street. The fucking riding of Jean Talon. It's out in Quebec. Whoa, man.
That's
It
funny.
was just looking funny.
Me, I'm going to be at Cafe Milano.
Yeah, I'll be at Cafe Milano. Maybe I'll catch some of the action. All right. It was so funny. Oh, man. How are you, Ted?
I'm good. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to contribute to this show today. I went over all the stuff that you sent, and I don't know shit from Shinola about any of it.
Oh, okay.
So you're gonna have to carry the show. I haven't even figured out what this new podcasting thing is means or is going to mean. I was going to say earlier when you were encouraging people to contribute to Patreon, try to get us up to a level where the government's going to monitor us, where we
geez.
have to register.
Yeah. I sent you guys this, and I don't know if anyone in the chat has been following, and we kind of expected this to happen, right? With Bill C-11, you got to give it to the opposition out in Ottawa because they did try to warn us. Justin Trudeau and his government played it down in the sense that we're regulating online content because we want to promote more Canadian content, and we want to make sure that there's a French language stuff and everything. Which I understand, but what happens with Canadian content creators that are on YouTube or whatever? Why do you need to monitor them?
Or
they're already
deemed,
Canadian,
or that aren't deemed Canadian enough.
But it's not that. I mean, I would assume that if you're on YouTube and you're Canadian, it's considered Canadian content. No? What's Canadian content? So this is where it gets tricky because there's a fine line. Like, how do you define Canadian content?
In radio, Canadian content. If a song is Canadian content, it's and I'm talking out of my ass a little bit here because I don't know exactly, but I think if it's written by a Canadian or performed by a Canadian or possibly produced by a Canadian, that makes it Canadian content. Also, I thought the internet and podcasting were supposed to be the Wild West. I thought it was supposed to be the last frontier where free speech ran free.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, because they had also said when this bill was being debated that it wouldn't affect social media and it wouldn't affect anything on the internet. This was basically online streaming and the big tech companies, right? I mean, Google. Well, that's a different bill. It was C-18.
Soon you're going to have to get our podcasts from the dark web.
No, but well, there's a threshold. I don't know if we're there. I don't know because I mean I don't know exactly how much this channel is being monetized. It's none of my business either. But there's a threshold past which you're going to have to do it. So I know personally I'm not there. I mean, my channel isn't monetized, so that's not going to happen. But I'm thinking of other big Canadian YouTubers like Chris Ramsey, for example, that you went on, and friend of the podcast as well.
Jordan Peterson
definitely is going to have to register. So this is alarming. This is alarming because, like you said,
wasn't it only for the people that are not supplying? What's the word I'm looking for?
distributing?
The distributors,
The platforms?
So Spotify, What
That's
else?
initially that's what it was about. So
Podcasts.
they said social media wasn't going to be included, and now it is. So they have until the end of November to register with the CRTC. What happens when or if you don't? I mean, is there a penalty? The government comes and they're going to come after you? This is what I hate, because these are independent creators. They found a space that has been free. And it is free everywhere, all over the world. I mean, it's the internet, right? Yeah. What kind of regulation is there going to be, and why do you even need to regulate?
Well, that's what's the motivation, and I've seen it said, and to me, logically it makes sense. It's about government wanting to control the flow of information, because if you control the flow of information, you control the message. Right, and what's next? If you engage in what the regulatory authorities deem to be hate speech, then they'll come after you. But what's hate speech, and who gets to define it?
Yeah,
it's all very vague. So
Yeah.
we already had this discussion earlier on when we had first started the morning show. And there's a fine line on what defines hate speech, because you would imagine that there's the laws that are in place that kind of protect our rights and freedoms. And what's hate speech? Are you calling someone the N-word, or are you calling on a specific community to die or to disappear? Because that is criminal. It already exists, right? Yeah. People, individuals are already protected under the law. So what else is hate speech?
Well, hate speech increasingly is becoming anything that I disagree with.
But is that really hate speech?
No, it's not. It's not.
It.
And an example of that is the parents who are protesting against LGBTQ plus indoctrination curriculum in schools are being accused of being hateful. They're hateful because they oppose that. No, they're not hateful. They just happen to have a different opinion than you. Having a different opinion doesn't equate to being hateful.
We keep coming back to this every week, but probably because it's just so common on a daily basis. But we've resorted to the extremes, right? I mean, we've lost kind of that middle ground where everyone kind of was able to sit down and listen and exchange and debate and come up to some sort of consensus, right? It's either white or black, and there's nothing in between now. It's crazy because I put out a little, and we're going to discuss this later, so I'll keep it for later. But just to finish up on this, I don't have a problem with the CRTC regulating Netflix or Spotify because they want to promote more Canadian content. That's fine. I think it's fair for Canadian creators, right? Whether they want to have a Canadian series on Netflix or have more Canadian music being distributed through Spotify, whatever. I can get that. I get it. But coming after the social media people like YouTubers and any social media content creators, I find that a little excessive. And I'm curious, but at the same time, I'm also afraid of what might come of this. Like, are they gonna the perfect example is Jordan Peterson. He's been really vocal against Justin Trudeau's policies, and he has every right to. He's a Canadian citizen, and if he doesn't agree with the government, he has every right to voice his concern or his disagreement or whatever he feels like expressing. Does that mean that the government's going to come and shut him down, or come and say, "Hey, buddy, it's hate, or we're going to demonetize this, or we're going to deplatform it"? What the hell is going to happen? What is the, what's the continuation of this?
I would imagine that a guy like him is in their crosshairs when it comes to this thing. Also, Rebel News is probably in their crosshairs because they're, that's another. They're the sort of the flip side of legacy media. Legacy media, traditional media, news media, has gone very far to the left, and in my opinion, adheres quite slavishly to the government and establishment line, and organizations like Rebel News, and I think there's another one called True North.
True North, yeah.
They're very anti-liberal and very right of center, and they're not practicing real journalism either. It's like you say, there's nobody right in the middle anymore. It's either the legacy media far left towing the government line, or it's independent alternative media far right awash in conspiracy theories. And there's nobody right in the middle doing what journalists should do, journalism in its purest form should be, finding the facts and reporting the truth. So I don't listen to any of them anymore. You know where I get my news now? Huey Lewis.
Who's Huey Lewis?
Huey Lewis in the news.
Who's that? Is that a joke? What is it?
Yeah, it was a joke.
I didn't get it.
I guess you're too young.
I was actually gonna search it up. Like
Yeah.
a retard.
Huey Lewis in the news, you know? It's the power of love is a curious thing, makes one man weep and another man sing.
No.
You'd know the song if you heard it. You know, that kills in the comedy clubs. I'll have you know.
I'm sorry. We just
It's all
destroyed
right.
your joke.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
I think I'm too young to get the reference.
Comedy can be a cruel mistress.
Oh, my
you
God.
guys would recognize what are some of those other songs? I Want a New Drug. Anyway, never mind. Okay, I'm going home now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like from a technical perspective, though, Poseidon, and I don't know if you know this, but what happens if you get on a different VPN kind of thing where they can't track where you are? Would that kind of get you to let's say you're using some VPN whatever service where you can hop on, I don't know, a US kind of VPN, and they wouldn't know that you're based in Canada? Would that
No,
work?
because the VPN is to be able to see things in other places.
But doesn't it mask you also?
So are you talking about doing the sort of the podcast or internet version of pirate radio, what used to be pirate radio?
Yeah.
So what
kinda.
you're saying is to use a VPN to appear as if you're posting from another place.
Yeah.
I don't know if VPN works that way, because I thought the whole thing of VPN was to be able to use and view things from other places, like in the US. Like I think Pantelis has the YouTube US, I think. Because the YouTube US, you could like minimize the app and you could still watch the video while you do things on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
The Canadian version, you have to pay for it.
Yeah. So that
a
normally, wouldn't it make Pantelis' channel appear in the US rather than in Canada, though?
No, I don't think it works that
Anyone
way.
in the chat?
No, I don't think it works that way.
Rosalie says, yes, it changes your IP address. So if you're using a VPN and your IP address changes and you're on a US IP,
I guess. I don't know. Maybe.
As long as I can still say fuck.
yeah,
Because I can't say that on the radio. That's what I like about podcasting. I can come in here and I can drop the F-bomb.
but you can say that on TV, though. No, fuck. I mean,
you
or
can't.
not? No,
No,
still
no.
like TV series.
What's
and stuff?
interesting is I think the guys on French radio drop the F-bomb a lot. On French radio, they'll say fuck, and I've sworn in French on English radio before
Okay,
just to see what would happen.
and that's fine. Or
Well,
they
I
can,
don't know if it's fine. And, you know, we got quite a few French listeners, so I probably should be
I
careful.
listen to French
and not
radio,
go down
and
that road.
I've heard a few people use the C word, like "calice," mais là, maudite merde. You know, like I've heard that. It's not really an excessive swear word.
Yeah. Fuck is, though. Like,
Fuck
you
is.
drop an F-bomb on
I can't remember anyone ever
On
using
English
that on
radio.
the French radio either.
Yeah. My ex-wife said fuck on our show one time. Ever play that for you, Poseidon? Did we ever play that on the time my ex-wife said...
I do remember something.
I think you.
Or you mentioned it, or
Yeah.
it was on the Terry and Ted podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was on the Terry and Ted podcast.
Yeah, we called her up and she didn't know that she didn't... My son picked up the phone. He was just a little... at the
Yeah.
time.
You did.
Yeah, and she didn't.
you talked
Yeah,
about it.
she picked up the extension. Didn't realize that we were on the air. And when I told Charlie he didn't have school today, she goes, "Ah, you're fucking kidding."
I remember.
And you know what? Nobody complained because everybody related, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was at the end of March break, and she had a newborn baby. Our daughter was newborn, and she couldn't wait to get the fucking 6 and 8 year old boys out of the house.
Totally relatable.
Yeah, then she finds out there's been a fucking, I think a water main broke at the school or something. You got no school today, Charlie? Ah, you're fucking kidding.
Think of it though from the kid's perspective. It's like
it's
in your
awesome.
face, your mom just doesn't want you in the house.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't blame her. Like when I was a kid and she was like, "Fuck," I wouldn't blame her at all. I was a piece of shit.
Okay, Captain Yolo says it changes the IP address, but it doesn't change the fact that your podcast is based in Montreal. So you can't get away from it. Man, I don't know. I have a feeling that, next year, well, this is coming into effect end of November. I'm just curious to see how this story is going to develop, because I have a feeling that a lot of these online content creators aren't going to be very happy.
Well, eventually you won't be able to see how it's going to develop.
Unless it's not as bad as we think. Maybe they just want to have a registry of who's out there doing what.
Why do they want that?
Well, that's it. Yeah, what's the point?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What are they, the fucking Stasi or something?
Yeah.
What is this, East Germany? Fuck.
I don't know. Like the way they kind of regulate radio. I mean, they're not going to come and tell you what you're doing or the program that you're organizing on the radio. I mean, they're just there to make sure that you follow certain procedural things. I guess I don't know what the CRTC does. I mean, you guys are under the CRTC for sure, right?
Yeah,
As a broadcaster.
Well, you see what they do. They regulate everything.
No, because he can come out and do whatever program he wants. So he doesn't have anyone over his shoulder telling him,
What do you mean?
You can't say this, you can't say that, be careful here, be careful there.
Well, the only people who can tell me that are the people I work for.
Yeah.
Not a regulatory body. That's, my employers will tell me, try not to say fuck on the radio.
Yeah. But that has nothing to do with the CRTC. So you're under
Of course it does, doesn't it?
No, I don't know. I mean,
But who made those rules that you can't say fuck on the radio?
Maybe.
Isn't it the CRTC?
Maybe it's the CRTC.
Yeah,
I don't know.
CRTC, for the kind of radio station I work at, a music radio station, their primary concern is that you play the required amount of Canadian content.
Yeah.
And French stations have it even tougher because they have to play Canadian content and Francophone content.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and there are only so many harmonium songs to go around. There's only so much France Jolie.
I don't know. It is scary, honestly. You think back and wonder, how the fuck has Canada come to this? I don't know. I sometimes wonder what other countries, like outside of Canada, obviously, think about us with all these things coming out. The last month has been a very bad month for politics in Canada.
Yeah,
and even from an international perspective, when they're looking towards the country. It's such an embarrassment.
Yeah, well, the Nazi in Parliament, that
well, that
trumps all. That alone,
yeah,
made us an international laughing stock.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. Yeah, guaranteed. I don't know.
And in what's it been, 2 weeks since that happened? 2 weeks and a bit, yeah. And increasingly, I see online. Media articles, like there's a lot of Nazi apologia or people trying to soft pedal what happened. One of the ones I saw the other day, I saw a headline that said, "Just because you fought for the Germans in World War II didn't necessarily make you a Nazi."
Sorry, what?
Just fighting for the Germans in World War II didn't necessarily make you a Nazi.
So what did it make you?
Well, it made you complicit in Nazi crimes.
I've heard and read a lot of those things too, because think of it as, you're a 16, 17-year-old, young man in Germany in the 40s. You go to war and they recruit you. You can't say no. What are you going to do? They drag you into the army and they say, okay, look, this is what you're going to do. You're taking orders. And of course, this is not to justify all the wrongdoings, right? But there is that flip side of the coin.
Yeah, but this wasn't the case for the guys in the Ukraine, right? Because is this what we're arguing?
Well, the guy who got the standing ovation in Parliament was a Nazi. He was a Nazi. He was a member of the SS.
Yeah.
The SS was the military arm of the Nazi Party. Everybody in the SS swore a personal oath of allegiance to Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
If that doesn't make you a fucking Nazi, I don't know what does.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, you want to laugh? Speaking of Nazis, I had I think I spoke about it on the Intellectuals Fast Pass, but I think you will appreciate it as well. I had a client, and we were talking about like, where you from and this, that, and it was this older lady with her husband. She goes, "What nationality are you?" She was a little bit curious, and I go, "I'm Greek, blah blah blah." And she goes, "Were you born in Greece, or were you born?" And I was like, "I'm born here and everything." And she goes, "Yeah, I was what did she say? I was I wasn't born here. I was born in Argentina, and then at 2.5 years old, we moved in the U.S. I go, oh, that's cool. Nah. She's like, yeah, my family right after World War II moved from Poland to Argentina.
that should ring
And then
quite a few alarms.
because I was doing stuff, and I was like, excuse me? And then she realized, like, nothing. And then she just left. I was like, hold on. You can't.
Madam Mengele.
You can't just tell somebody that and then just fuck off.
There's all these conspiracy theories about Hitler not really dying and grabbing a submarine all the way to Argentina. There were a lot, actually. But Canada, too, had been known to have given refuge to a lot of these former Nazi soldiers. But I don't think more than Argentina. Argentina had a lot.
Yeah, a lot of them went to South America because South America, some of the regimes in South America at the time were Nazi friendly.
Yeah.
Like they were, they had fascist leanings in their own right. So they fit right in.
Yeah, Captain Yolo says we need a new federal election now with Poilievre in office with a majority. Point final.
Yeah, but you know what I heard about Canadian politics? You could go on forever.
There's no limit to the mandates you can do.
Yeah, I learned this recently.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is completely insane.
Yeah, like in the U.S., you can only do two mandates and then you're done. Canada, you can stay as long as people appreciate you. But it doesn't, what's the longest period?
16 years.
Was that the longest?
Wasn't there a prime minister of Quebec that was here for like 30 years?
No, never. No. I know Justin's dad kind of served for a while, but he didn't do it consecutively.
His was split up, yeah.
He left and then came back. Same thing happened with Robert Bourassa here in Quebec. He left and came back in the late 80s or early 90s. But I'm not sure who in Canada. Probably Mackenzie King was the longest serving MP, prime minister.
And he was the wartime prime minister.
Yeah.
And similarly, FDR in the United States had an unprecedented and exceptional third term because he was a wartime president.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, he served 3 consecutive terms, or he was in his third term when he died, because he died in office. And then Harry Truman came in and said, drop it.
Yeah.
Drop it, and then drop another one 3 days later, and that'll be the end of the war. And he was right. There's an interesting debate.
Yeah.
People go on and on about how terrible it was that the Americans dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan, and that was a war crime, and all the civilians who were killed.
We did them a favor.
You know what? If
They wouldn't be able to. Sorry, I'm cutting you off, Ted. They wouldn't be able to create the content they're creating.
What the
I don't look at it from that perspective, although that's an interesting spin. But if the Americans had to invade the home islands of Japan, the bloodbath would have been like nothing ever seen in human history, because the Japanese population was very militarized, and the mindset, and particularly the mindset in wartime Japan, and you saw this in how Japanese troops conducted themselves, was death before dishonor.
Yeah.
They would rather die than surrender. So if the Americans, I think the projected casualties, if the Americans had to invade the home islands of Japan, I think the American casualties were projected at 1 million.
Wow.
So imagine what the Japanese casualties would have been. So I don't know what the total combined death toll was from the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 200,000 to 300,000, which is horrible. It's horrible.
I was joking before, by the way, just so.
Sure,
you know.
yeah.
we know.
Just clarify.
No,
that
you guys know,
before,
but I just want to,
before we get regulated.
So I'm just saying that it was, it's an awful thing, but it was the lesser of it was the lesser of two evils. The death toll would have dwarfed what it was from those 2 atomic bombings. How'd we get onto that anyway? From regulating the internet to the atomic bombs.
Yeah, we spoke about the Nazi in Parliament, then we
There you
got
go. That's how
to
we get
South
onto it.
America, and then
Well, that's good because I know a little bit about what I'm talking about there. And like I said, the stuff you sent me this week, I was like, oh, fuck, I don't know anything about that. I know a lot about Bugs Bunny cartoons. You want to
I
talk
love
about
Bugs Bunny cartoons. Love them. Love them.
Isn't that amazing? Those fucking cartoons were made before I was born.
And yet they're still playing.
Yeah.
And they still hold a lot of value.
Timeless comedic art.
Man,
Timeless
it's so
comedic
good.
art.
So
brilliant.
good.
Brilliant comedy.
No, but it's the best.
Yeah.
It was the best.
Yeah.
For me, it was it was Looney Tunes, and then we also watched a lot of Flintstones, which is also a very old cartoon.
I remember
think. No,
Flintstones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Bugs Bunny's still around. It's so good. It's so good. I remember watching the episode where Wile E. Coyote actually caught the Roadrunner. It was like this because he had all these things that he would always have deliver or whatever, all these weapons, and there was this giant tube that you would run into, and it would kind of, it was a big entrance, and it would kind of become tighter and tighter towards the end. So theoretically, it was like you go in from one side and you come out like really small out on the other end, right? So the idea was for him to get the Roadrunner to run through that and to shrink in size so he can catch. But he actually ended up going through the tunnel, and then the Roadrunner stopped, and you see him catching. He's like, yeah, finally I caught the Roadrunner. And then he looks up, and the Roadrunner's this giant bird because he's the one that shrank, and he can't do anything about it. The one time that he caught her, poor guy. I love the coyote.
Wile E. Coyote.
I want to talk to you just as a follow-up to what we spoke about last week with regards to the schools making gender neutral policies, and the government, at least here in Quebec, that came out against it. And we spoke about how this is a much more divisive issue than we think. And I think a day later or 2 days later, there was news coming out of Saskatchewan where the premier over there, Scott Moe, and this isn't new. I mean, they've been working on this legislation for a while that actually passed, and it was rejected in court. So the court in Saskatchewan rejected the law. And the reason why we're talking about this is because Saskatchewan is actually considering invoking the notwithstanding clause. Yeah. But over there, it's not about gender neutral policies in schools like it is over here in Quebec, which is a little bit more of a milder issue. Over there, it's very serious. We're talking about protecting parental rights versus the rights of children. So the kids, for example, that are under the age of 16, that want to change their pronouns, or they want to, identify as someone or something different in school, technically the school needs to protect that right and not advise the parents. So this is really like, I'm a parent, and I mean, I don't think I'm a bad parent. And if my kids are going through something that they don't feel comfortable discussing, with me or my wife, I would want to be aware.
So would I. So
what's happening now in Saskatchewan is that if this were the case, if this were to happen, the parents would not be advised. And we're talking about minors here. We're talking about under 16.
Yeah.
So Scott Moe over there passed the legislation to block that from happening. It was refused in court, and now he's considering using the notwithstanding clause. I think they were supposed to meet this week or the next to actually vote that in. So this is serious. I know that a lot of people don't follow what's happening in provincial news across Canada. But this is big because
that has far-reaching implications.
Absolutely. I feel like this is probably going to come across Canada, and especially in Quebec, where we've already kind of had an introduction, right, to this kind of playing field. So I don't know how it's going to play out. This is very troubling for me. As a parent, and maybe a couple of years ago I wouldn't even have thought about this. I'd be like, who cares about this shit, But now as a parent, and I don't know if any other parents are listening to this, I'm on the side where I would want to be informed. I mean, past 16, 17 years old, I get it. They're no longer considered minors, but even at that point, you still care for your kids, right? But at some point, you kind of have to understand that, okay, whatever, they're gonna go on their own way,
live their own lives. Yeah.
But under the age of 16, it's troubling to even think that your kid may be going through something, and that you're left out of it completely. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, and I also I don't believe for 1 minute that every educator has the child's best interests at heart. I think that within the education system, there are a lot of people who are agenda driven and who are all too happy to use kids as to push their agenda. And parents don't have an agenda with their kids. Parents love their kids. That's the agenda. Love your kid and want the best for them.
And we're not talking about the abusive, parents over here that probably don't care or beat their kids. Like, forget about that. That's a whole other issue.
Well,
in
it's
itself.
also a tiny minority.
Yeah, I mean, forget about it. We're talking about normal family setting. And I'll use mine as an example, where if this were the case, I would be troubled as a parent to know that my kid is going through something that I'm not aware of. It's I can't even conceive that. I mean, I can't understand how this, why parents would be left out. So this is going to be a very important debate, in my opinion. So parental rights versus the rights of children, and I have a feeling that it's going to come to Quebec. And this is what I was going to say before. I actually posted this on Facebook the other day. Just very basic thing, I wasn't taking any position. Just this is happening in Saskatchewan. I think it's probably going to come to Quebec. What is the right thing to do here? Should the parents have their right, or because look on one hand you have the parental rights, and on the other hand, as a parent, it's hard not to agree with that, right? You want to know what's happening with your kids, but on the other hand, you also want a justice system that protects our individual rights and freedoms. So where do you stand on this issue exactly? It's going to be a very difficult debate. And I put that up on Facebook, and I had 2 comments on it almost immediately, and both comments was on either side of the debate. So
they were opposite comments. Yeah. Scott Moe he was really vilified on social media, on Twitter in particular, or X as it's now known, after he announced about the notwithstanding clause, and it was so over the top, like he's a hateful Nazi, and like, fuck off.
But this goes back to what we're saying. Automatically, you're camped into an extreme.
Yeah, and that's why I think that there are agendas at work. When you resort to that kind of rhetoric, you're not taking a reasonable approach. And I support him and what he's trying to achieve there. And I'm pretty sure I'm not a hateful Nazi. I'm pretty sure. Am I a hateful Nazi, Poseidon? Or just your run-of-the-mill Nazi? It's one of those casual...
Just a regular kind of Nazi.
Yeah, like I'm not a straight arm seagull. I'm more of a casual, as Jerry Seinfeld say, casual around the office.
That's funny.
No, but just to wrap this topic up, one of the argument that was in favor of the rights of children, she goes, listen, there's laws that forbid kids under the age of 16 to actually transition or to have any surgeries or anything like that. In which case, I assume from what she wrote that she'd be on the side of the parents. But because there's laws already against that, then kids should be able to identify as they please. And what does it matter to the parents? Maybe it does. It shouldn't matter to the parents. But at the very minimum, should the parents not even know that this is happening?
The parents should be, should be aware, of course. So there are laws.
Yeah, from what I understand, if you're under 16, you cannot go through any transition or any surgeries or
really.
Yeah.
Have there not been kids under 16 who've gone through surgeries?
I don't know.
Man, they're gonna ruin an entire generation.
I don't know.
Trying to convince kids to fucking.
And I could be wrong here, but I think I read somewhere that unless it's only for Quebec and not for Canada, but there is a law that under the age of 16 you cannot go through any of these. Transformations.
But do you understand how dumb we are at that age? Even after 16, like
shit,
dude. At 18, I joined the pyramid scheme. Yeah. Like this is how fucking dumb we are, and we're gonna fucking change. Like we're gonna do Like this is insane.
I
this
still make bad decisions at my age now
on a regular basis. Regular basis.
This is a life ruining, man.
Yeah.
This is
insane. You're cutting your tits off or your cock off. Come on, that's to me that's crazy. At any age, it's mutilation.
It's mutilation.
It's absolutely
physical mutilation. If you want to physically mutilate yourself at 30 years old and you're not hurting yourself, go ahead.
Look, I mean, I don't know. I'm somewhere in the middle, because if you're at an age where you can understand that you're living in another body, and mentally, physically, psychologically, you're much happier being the other gender, then do whatever you want. I don't care. That for me is it should be a non-issue, and I don't even know why we're focused on it. In any case, again, we have rights that protect everyone here. So the fact that we have resorted to the situation where, like you said before, during the demonstrations, people were called haters because they came out against the other side. I mean, look, it's their opinion, right? And the other side has every single right to do. Bless you.
Sorry.
And they have every single right to do whatever they want, right? So that, for me, I don't care. That I think it's a non-issue. Do whatever you want. Do whatever pleases you, and that's it. You know. But we're talking about minors over here, and for me, that's a whole other thing. And you know what? I'll even take it past the minor age. I would like to have that extended maybe until 21 years old.
I'm going to explain to you what
Past that age, I mean, there's not much more you can do, but I feel like there's still some sort of immaturity up until that point where maybe you don't know. I don't
I'm
know.
64 and I'm still emotionally immature.
you know, but
He'll come in next week with tits.
that's not the. But that's not the point. The point is, for any age, there should be. I don't know how to explain this properly, but it would be. I got dental work done. I removed wisdom teeth and everything. It was harder for me to get Percocets than it would be if I said, "All right, I feel like a woman now." You know what I mean? There should be, like, you go see a psychologist.
You mean the hoops you had to jump through in order to
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and the
In order to
first
get
time
that
when they did
prescription.
my root canal, they didn't even give me a prescription. They're just take Advil. You know what I mean? So it's easy. It's harder to get certain pharmaceutical drugs if you do operate it than it is to transition at this point. There should be the same checks and balances that there is in order to get regular drugs for any operation that you do or anything, then it would be for this. You got to see a psychologist numerous times. You got to get assessed.
I'm very much worried. I'm very much worried because I have young girls that are going to be maturing maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, and I feel like that window we're going to be smack in the middle of just a ton of bullshit.
Yeah, well, I have a 15-year-old daughter, and she's comfortable in her skin, comfortable with who she is, but I'm sure that she hears all about that on a regular basis, because I think that's the age where. That's the age where they're looking for validation, right?
And there's a lot of peer pressure as well.
Yeah, and it seems like in certain circles, the cool kids are the LGBTQ plus kids, right? That's the trendy cool thing. I'd hate for any kids to change themselves beyond the point of return, so that they can be one of the cool kids,
just to follow a trend.
Which is
also a main concern right now, right? I mean, that's the big question now. Is this happening because there are really youngsters that feel uncomfortable with who they are, or is it happening because this is just a trend that everyone wants to get on with?
Well, I think maybe it's a combination of the two. Maybe it's young people being, still trying to find their way and not being comfortable with their identity yet, and they become candidates for this. They become eligible for this. And I've heard it said, and I'd like to hear what you think about this, that if you get a kid who transitions at a very young age, the pharmaceutical industry now has a customer for life. And it's an industry. I've heard it said that it's an industry. And like that, those operations, gender changing operations are not cheap. Somebody's making big money off that. And a lifetime of medication or hormone blockers or whatever drugs are used in this process and to sustain this process, somebody's making money off that.
Yeah.
And I think they're making big money.
Yeah. And you know what we're not talking about, and Captain Yolo mentioned it also in the chat. Chloe Cole, a detransitioner, and this is happening much more.
We have a detransitioner in the chat.
No. He mentioned a name of someone that is a she or she is a detransitioner.
She.
But this is also something very important because what we're not paying attention to, and maybe, I don't know, I mean, we're focused a lot more on people that want to transition and, that voice. But there is an important part of that demographic, that population that has transitioned, that regrets it.
Yeah.
And they're trying to detransition now. And the argument on that side is that they weren't properly, they didn't consult properly, or the doctors or physicians or psychologists or whoever they met were too quick to recommend a transition, and probably had they told them, look, let's wait a year or two, things psychologically would have changed, right? I mean, who knows? I mean, if it was just a phase or not. So there's a lot of these individuals that are now detransitioning, but we're not hearing that at all. Almost no, there's nothing out there about these individuals that have regretted, or that they were taken down a wrong path, or whatever. The system was too quick to recommend the transition. So that is, I think, equally as serious as the other side as well.
Yeah, well, that goes against the LGBTQ plus agenda, detransitioning, and legacy media is LGBTQ plus friendly. As a matter of fact, I think there are a lot of people from within the community who are influential members of legacy media. So you're not going to hear about anything that doesn't reflect well,
but you know what,
doesn't promote the message.
I hate the fact that if you come out with an argument that is against what they're promoting, automatically you become against their movement, or you become a hater.
Yeah.
That it gets under my skin like you can't imagine.
Well, that's a tactic. It's a tactic. It's a tactic designed to shut you the fuck up. And if we let it happen, then, they'll continue to use it. If it's successful, they'll continue to use it. So it's something that I believe has to be, you have to have debate. You have to have honest debate. Honest debate. That's why, like I say, you can't have that right now with the way that the media is so split and divided on two extremes. And I think public opinion, which generally follows and is influenced by media, ends up being on two extremes as well. That's why I listen to Huey Lewis and the News.
We laughed.
I like how you.
Poseidon still doesn't get it.
I still don't get it.
No, but that's call. That's known as callback, right? In stand-up comedy, Poseidon, that was a callback joke. Yeah.
Oh man! Just on a lighter note, there was, and I'm sure everyone saw this because I know that you guys are major.
It's a pop band. It's a pop.
Yeah,
band.
Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah, you don't know that?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
If you played one of their songs, if you played the song "The Power of Love," you'd go, "Okay, that I recognize that."
Surely.
Yeah.
I know that Poseidon is a major Backstreet Boys fan. Did you see the clip where I think it's AJ, one of the Backstreet Boys, was in Montreal recently, and it's gone viral because we love people that make fun of Montreal, especially in this podcast over here. We've destroyed the city's mayor and all the bullshit that's been happening in Montreal. But he put out a video, and he's surrounded by all these orange cones, and he was like, "I love Montreal, but we got to do something different about the cones." And he was saying that he wants to get elected mayor of Montreal to, I think he wanted, his argument was, let's change the orange cones to pink. Let's make them pink. So, and in general, he was making fun of the city. And he's not the first celebrity to have brought this out in the open, right? Where everything is just fucking blocked. We're an embarrassment.
Well, it's pretty hard to miss when you come to the city. It's hard to miss the construction when you come to the city.
But
it's everywhere.
I mean, it's embarrassing when you have obviously this went all over the world, and this, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I mean,
I have the video if you guys want.
Yeah, there it is.
There he is. Yeah.
Put on your head.
What is he saying exactly?
Where is he?
Put on your headphones.
Probably downtown.
Yeah, that looks like old Montreal. Maybe I don't know.
St. Catherine. I think it's St. Catherine.
Yeah, maybe. Hold on, let me double check here. Okay.
Hey you guys, so AJ here. I am in Montreal right now doing promotion
Montreal.
for the Fashion Hero Season 3. And I I've noticed something. You guys have a serious problem with these orange cones. Like, seriously, orange cones everywhere.
The construction
Yeah.
guys laughing.
Because
Yeah.
of that, I'm going to run
It's a
for
key,
mayor
sir.
of Montreal, 2024, 2025, AJ for mayor, and as my first duty, I'm getting rid of the orange cones. We're going to make pink cones and way less cones. Cones. The cones got to go. So trust me, AJ for mayor of Montreal, 2024, 2025. Vote for AJ.
Vote for AJ.
Vote for
Vote
AJ.
for AJ. Vote
Thank
for
you, Montreal.
AJ.
Well, first, someone has to tell them that there's no
Hey,
municipal
guys,
election in 2024, 25.
He's got a big Montreal connection. Eh? I read that article
Does he?
that you
Yeah.
sent us. Yeah, he's producing or hosting a show.
Oh, yeah, it's like some fashion show.
yeah,
Whatever. Yeah.
from out of here. I had no idea that they're still together, the Backstreet Boys. That
I
they're
think
still
they come
performing.
together. Like, whenever they run out of money, they do like
There
a
you
kind of
go, yeah.
reunion tour,
Yeah.
which seems to be the trend these days.
And apparently they got robbed of a lot of money, huh? Like
From their label.
Manager?
their manager, I think. He took like 90% of their money or some shit,
Yeah.
and ran off.
Smart guy.
I'd rather get married and divorced.
They should hunt him down and beat the shit right out of
Fuck
him.
yeah. But imagine these guys are rolling in cash. Imagine had they not been ripped off. Like,
Yeah. They're rich. Yeah, imagine.
Was Nick Carter a Backstreet Boy?
Yeah.
He was, hey? Okay.
I don't know why I know that, but yeah, he was.
Yeah. And is he still in the band when they get together to
Yeah. Yeah. Who was the one that it was his brother, I think, that committed suicide, I think. He had a younger brother.
Yeah, there was something
Something I remember
happened
that.
with a brother of his. Yeah. If only there was some kind of an electronic information portal that we could consult.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That
Or
would
what?
be
Sorry. I was reading the comments. No. Say,
How are we doing with the chat? Is it busy there?
Let's go check the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading the chat. Sorry, I missed.
How do
what
you do,
guys
folks
said.
on the chat? I don't even know how to get there. How do I get
Rosalie is laughing.
You got to go on the YouTube page and then just open the chat on the thing.
there? My favorite Bruce Springsteen song, Rosalita.
Rosalie
song.
is Dennis Hart, and then and then she goes, "Why he looks like he's on Gay Jersey Shore TV reality show."
Quebec put the Backstreet Boys on the map. Is that true?
And then
Well,
Dennis,
that's what it said in that article. Yeah, I was not aware of that.
Yeah. Okay.
But apparently they were big here before they were big everywhere else.
Yeah, oh, that's what Rosalie says. Speaking of Montreal, I went. I was downtown on last Sunday. I went to a demonstration. We'll talk about that because I want to talk about that issue a little bit. So we went to the Place du Canada there on La Gauchetière. So we went with a family. Then after that, we just walked and we went to eat downtown. And I'm walking along St. Catherine, and I don't know if you guys been downtown lately. What the hell is going on St. Catherine Street?
Where?
Downtown. It was between what's that street? Is it Peel? Yeah, between Peel going east.
Is it a pedestrian mall there now, or can you still take your
No,
car down
it's just
St. Catherine
blah. The
Street
streets
there?
are closed. You can't. I mean, I don't even know where cars go anymore. But I think they're turning it into a pedestrian street or
Okay.
something. I don't know what the hell they're doing. But it looks like a fucking war zone. Everything is closed.
Really, eh?
Yeah. Like, this is like hardcore downtown Montreal on St. Catherine Street.
Like when you say it looks like a war zone, is it all torn up? Are there cones everywhere?
Yeah, well, no,
Is that
they have
maybe
it-
where Buddy was?
That's where, that's what I thought it was St. Catherine. Like, they had that fence everywhere.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no cars. It's tragic, man. This is downtown.
Yeah, I don't go downtown anymore.
I never
avoid it.
go. I mean, I
avoid it
hadn't
at all
gone in
costs.
such a long time. And
Yeah.
I was walking my wife. I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? It feels like we're in a third world country here.
Yeah, I live in my West Island bubble.
That's so nice.
The farthest I go is Lachine because I drive my son to work. He works at a restaurant in Lachine, so I drive him down there. You don't like Lachine?
I think Lachine, La Salle, anything west of the 13 should
Yeah.
disappear.
East of the 13, you mean?
West.
West. Yeah,
So
but
anything
Lachine and
west.
LaSalle are east of the 13.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, then it
Yeah.
gets saved then, I guess.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
west?
West is Dorval.
And La
west
Salle.
of-
La Salle is west of
No,
13,
no. It's east of the 13.
It is?
Yeah.
Damn, okay.
Yeah.
So west of the 13, but including La Salle. La Salle. Just because
Yeah, but west of the 13 is Dorval. You need Dorval. It's the airport.
It's the airport. It's the
Hey,
airport.
you know what I did? I don't know if I talked about this the last time I was here. I went to that little roundabout at the intersection of the 13 and the 40. Did I tell you about that?
For the planes.
To watch the planes
Yeah.
come in? Yeah.
But no, well, you
Coolest
had told us
thing.
that it was the first time you went. I don't know if because you were saying that you wanted to go back to see the bigger planes. I don't know
I
if
did go back. And see
you
the-
went?
I went back, one afternoon. I went like mid to late afternoon. That's when the flights come in from
And
Europe.
impressive?
Very impressive.
Yeah?
Yeah, really cool. I mean, after a while, it's like, okay, there's another big plane.
Yeah.
But the first 2 or 3 that go over, you're like,
You're like,
holy fuck,
whoa,
man, look
yeah.
at that. Yeah.
And that's pretty high. You don't realize, but you've seen those videos. I can't remember. I don't know which islands, somewhere in the Caribbean, where the plane
Saint Martin. That's Saint Martin. Yeah.
where it literally comes like 15 feet off
Yeah.
the ground, 20 feet off the ground.
And
Like,
when they
it's
take
really-
off, if you're standing on the beach behind the
blows you
jet,
away.
it'll blow you into the water. Yeah, I've been to that island. That's a beautiful island,
Yeah.
Saint Martin. It's half French and half Dutch. It's
Right.
really, really interesting. And the restaurants on the French side are absolutely fantastic. It's been a long time since I went there, but I've gone to, I don't know, maybe half a dozen islands in the Caribbean.
Oh, that's
and that was
nice.
my favorite.
Yeah,
St.
yeah.
Martin was my favorite.
My brother
Yeah.
has done a cruise down there, and they had some time to get out and explore a little bit. And I remember him telling me as well that he liked St. Martin.
Yeah, and you can see the whole island in 2 hours. Like
Yeah.
It's very small.
I love
You
that.
drive around the whole island.
Yeah.
Beautiful beaches, topless beaches, and beautiful Dutch and French women with no tops.
Yeah.
So if that's something that appeals to you,
This is live, right? Yeah, just to go back to that story there for Sunday, because I went to the demonstration that was organized by the Armenian community. I have a lot of friends in the Armenian community. There's a situation happening in a region called Artsakh or Nagorno-Karabakh.
is
And
that part of Azerbaijan?
Well,
Or is that,
it's in
up,
between.
is that up for debate?
Yeah, that's the
Okay,
thing. That's
all
the
right.
thing. And we had spoken about this, I think, 2.5 years ago, Poseidon, when the conflict had first started with Azerbaijan, and then there was a ceasefire, and Azerbaijan obviously broke that ceasefire because they attacked that region again. Basically, for the people that don't know, there's a region between Armenia and Azerbaijan that has been contested forever since the early 20th century. Historically, though, it's Armenian. There's Armenian nationals living there. They were just, the victims of a higher power, which was Russia, that just divided everything up at that point. They had
So that was part of the Soviet Union, right?
yeah,
When
it
the
was-
Soviet Union was
exactly.
still intact?
Yeah. But I mean, it existed before the Soviet Union. Armenia has thousands of years of history. And in the 20s, there was this. There was an agreement between Turkey and Russia where they took a huge portion of Western Armenia. It went into Turkey, and at that point, they had identified that region to go to Azerbaijan. And since then, it's been chaos over there. When the Soviet Union. With the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 92 or 93, Artsakh or Nagorno-Karabakh had a referendum, and they all voted in favor to become an independent nation, which I think was recognized, except obviously from Azerbaijan. But there's always been conflict over there. And 2 years ago, there was a war. The Azerbaijani government advanced into Nagorno-Karabakh. They occupied a certain part of that territory. And we're seeing now images where there was a ceasefire negotiated by Russia, which again, we don't know if it could be trusted or not. They broke the ceasefire, and there is literally ethnic cleansing happening right now. It's been evacuated. They've chased everyone, all the Armenians, out of Nagorno-Karabakh. Everyone's been fleeing. They had closed for 6 or 7 months one corridor. It's called the Lachin corridor, which pretty much enters this region. So there were a lot of calls out internationally to the fact that, they're trying to starve us. Nothing is coming in. There was nothing, no food, no supplies going into Artsakh. The Azerbaijani army had blocked that corridor. And I've been following it, obviously, because of the friends that I have that are in the community. And it was amazing to me to see that there was zero reaction internationally. Nobody was talking about what was happening until last week, where there was this massive evacuation. There were video images showing all this trail of cars just leaving Artsakh into Armenia. And it's just sad to see because these are events that we've read in history books. We've read about ethnic cleansing. The Armenians have a very unfortunate history with the Ottoman Empire. Yeah. And it's just happening again before our eyes. And with all the technology that's available, it happens instantly. We're seeing this happen on the minute, right? So I don't know what's going to happen over there. The only country that I've read so far that has taken any concrete steps is France. And I think that happened yesterday or on Monday, where the French government will be sending military aid to Armenia. Sadly, the UN has shown absolutely zero leadership in this.
Is that not a prime situation for UN peacekeeping mission?
It should be. And I actually posted a tweet yesterday because they had sent the mission to Artsakh to evaluate the situation. They stayed 1 day. 1 day they stayed, and the only thing that they mentioned in the report is obviously that it's everyone has evacuated, and that they didn't notice anything other than just that, right? Which obviously is wrong because I've been following some independent journalists that have been on the ground, and the atrocities are enormous over there. They've kidnapped politicians, and I don't know where they're keeping them. We're talking about the president of Artsakh. These are elected officials that have been kidnapped by the Azerbaijani government or the army. So I just wanted to talk about it because no one else is talking about it. The Canadian government, I think, has sent some negligible aid to Armenia. I think, was it 20 million, something like that, $20 million, which if you consider the over 100,000 refugees that have left now, it comes out to peanuts per person, right? So I'm not so sure that's going to do anything to help. But in any case, it's sad to see because it feels as though there's so much attention and so much energy being put into the Ukraine right now that there's no other country that can afford or even waste any energy elsewhere, which is very sad.
I consider myself pretty well informed, and I knew nothing about the history of. I knew nothing about that situation or the history of that region.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows the history of Armenia.
I'm aware that
everyone
the
knows about the
Armenians
genocide and that ethnic cleansing with the Ottoman Empire, which, by the way, it wasn't only Armenians. There was Assyrians and Greeks as well that suffered in that. But this particular region, very few people know about it, and very few people are actually vocal. There are a couple people in our parliament that have been raising concern. One of which is our friend Leo Housakos in the Senate, and there's a Bloc MP. That has been vocal as well. The Liberal government is, in my opinion, absent. And I think that there's a lot more they can do, especially Mélanie Joly, who's elected out of Montreal. And she has a very significant portion of her population, of her electorate, that is of Armenian descent.
Is she also not our foreign affairs minister?
Of course. So the only thing that, and I could be wrong, but the only thing I heard her say about this issue is that help that she provided, which is obviously not enough. I'm exchanging a lot with my Armenian friends in the community, and they're just exhausted with the lack of attention that the Canadian government has given this issue, which is an important freaking issue because this is how things get forgotten, right? Nobody pays attention. Next thing you know, that region has been swallowed up by Azerbaijan, and that's it. That's all.
Yeah, well, it also underscores to me the fact that, like I say, I consider myself to be fairly well informed, and I had no idea of that conflict or its history. Underscores just the sheer volume of ethnic conflict around the world. Yeah. How many other situations like that are ongoing in other countries and other regions around the world that we never hear about it?
No.
You know, I didn't know anything about the Hutus and the Tutsis until the Rwandan genocide. Yeah. And that was a tough way to find out about that one.
But yeah, and
I thought you were gonna do a Huey in the news again.
No, I'm not going to segue from the Rwandan genocide into a Huey Lewis news joke. No,
the media, I guess, chooses and picks what sells more. I guess I don't know, and I know that it's a very small region in the world, but given the atrocities and the history involving Armenia, I don't think that it should be ignored. You know, everyone is focused on what happened with the Nazi and the relations with India. And mind you, I don't know if you saw this, but there's new developments that came out yesterday where India expelled more Canadian diplomats. They're like, fuck off, we don't need you anymore. I think about 20 more diplomats. So the relations over there aren't getting any better.
And wasn't there a cybersecurity breach as well last week?
I think the parliament's website went down, no?
Yeah, the India's intelligence, or allegedly it was Indian intelligence, perpetrated some kind of cybersecurity breach of a Canadian website. I don't know if it was the parliamentary website, but I was hosting a comedy show last Friday night, and it just so happened that one of the guys in the audience, one of the comics, asked him what he did. He said he was in cybersecurity. So I asked him about this, and I said, you know, is it possible that we can use this to figure out where to get a good buttered chicken? So I went right to the cheap ethnic joke right away, because that's all I got.
Oh my God! All that to say that I don't know. It's embarrassing to see the state of affairs in Canada. And I read an article I think this week because everyone is questioning. I mean, what the hell is going on? You know, with Canada's reputation around the world. And there was this information that was leaked to the effect that the defense minister, Canada's defense minister, hasn't yet received his mandate. He doesn't have his letters yet from the prime minister's office. Normally, the way it works is that when you get appointed to a cabinet, the prime minister gives you kind of like your mandate sheet. Like, this is what we're expecting. And these are public. They're made public because the people need to know what you're there to do. These are they're called letters, you know. And it appears that the defense minister, of all ministers, the defense minister still hasn't had his letters given to him by the prime minister's office. So I don't know how messy the situation is up in Ottawa, but for the PMO, and when did they shuffle government? This is about 2 months ago now.
The cabinet shuffle?
Yeah. It was in July or something.
Yeah.
What the fuck are they waiting for?
No.
This is the defense minister.
Did I read this week too that there's big budget cuts?
Yeah.
In
Well,
defense
the news
spending?
came
they're
out.
giving it all to Ukraine. It's got to come from somewhere, right?
But this is the fascinating thing, Ted, because this piece of news, actually, the fact that it doesn't have his letters yet, came after this news was broken that the Canadian government is planning on cutting up to $1 billion from the defense budget, and you start wondering, okay, there is a shortage in military arsenal. There is a shortage in military personnel already. So where are you going to get the money? Like, where else are you going to cut? We're already missing to begin with. Yeah. And the argument coming out of the Defense Department was that, and I don't know, maybe I'm not good enough with numbers to understand or to even explain this. But as far as I understood, he said that we're increasing the investments in the defense budget, but we're just finding ways of spending less. So for me, it was like, okay, wait, are you putting money or are you taking out money? Because I'm not so sure how that works. If you're taking $1 billion out,
how do you increase investment by spending less?
Yeah, if your argument is that at the end of the day, the equation needs to be in the positive, it means that you need to invest more than $1 billion. Because if you're taking $1 billion, don't you need to spend more than $1 billion in order to say, no, we spent more money? So I'm not so sure how much sense that made, but it's embarrassing. And let's remind everyone that Canada is under a lot of pressure from its NATO allies because they're not spending up to 2% of the GDP in their military budget, which is supposed to happen based on whatever agreement they have as NATO allies. And Justin Trudeau has been avoiding that whole question. He's been kind of, we're going to do it. We're going to live up to our promise. And now they're announcing $1 billion in budget cuts.
How much have we given Ukraine?
Over $9 billion.
Yeah.
To Ukraine. I mean, I don't know. To a certain extent, I understand that you want to be on the right side of history, but when you're looking at the state of affairs in your own country, is there not one, 1 inch of thought that maybe that money can be used contribute to our situation?
Well, yeah, I'm a big believer in you take care of your own first. Doesn't that make sense? Isn't that common sense, or does that just make me a Putin lover?
Yeah, exactly. You're following on the
Putin lover.
extreme.
Yeah.
You freaking extremist, Nazi lover.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening. But
as soon as we start talking about how much money we've given to Zelensky,
were we deplatformed?
no, our stream health went to poor
Oh,
really fast.
Sorry, guys. You don't like that conversation.
Suspicious.
Suspicious.
I'm just joking. It's not us. It's obviously not an attack on us.
At a time where security is at the highest alert, right? I mean, think of it. We're almost right next to Russia. You know, and I remember when the conflict
Yeah, if you
started.
go up top, over the top.
Yeah.
yeah, we're right there.
And I remember when this conflict started. One of
Bless
the, geez, man,
I don't know what's wrong with you.
It's probably the cocaine.
Yeah, yes.
Probably what?
The cocaine. You got to stop. When the conflict started, I remember Justin Trudeau almost immediately saying that they need to invest more in our security and securing the northern borders. And nobody criticized him for that. It made complete sense, right? So now we're moving $1 billion. I don't know what effect that is going to have, but I don't know, man. There's Ted. You know, the last month or two have been so tragic when it comes to Canadians' reputation worldwide. And I mean, I don't think I'm old, but I'm not young to the point where I don't remember Canada's reputation internationally, where it was almost stellar. We were a voice of reason, and countries and different conflict zones would look up to Canada for support or viable solutions. We're not there anymore. We're so far from where we were. It's embarrassing.
I thought Canada was back. I thought in 2015
remember?
that was the thing.
Yeah, that was the
Canada's
slogan.
back. Yeah,
Canada's back. We're so not back.
Well,
In fact, I think we're on reverse. Speaking of reverse, and I don't follow very actively what's happening in the U.S., but things are shaking up. I don't know if you followed yesterday what happened in Congress.
well, I saw that the speaker was basically fired. I don't know what that means. I don't follow American politics that
they
closely.
voted him out. And the articles that I read,
The Speaker of the House of Representatives.
McCartney, what was his name? McCarthy?
Kevin McCarthy.
McCarthy.
Yeah.
So he was voted out because he was trying to make a deal with the Democrats in order to continue the funding, basically, so the government won't shut down, right? The Republicans didn't like that. And there's, I think, what's his name? Matt Gaetz or something like that. He's
Matt Gaetz, yeah.
He's from
Florida,
out of
Congressman, I
Florida.
think. Yeah.
Who presented a motion to vote, it was basically like a vote of confidence in Congress, which was supported. And the Democrats went along with it. They gave nothing to the speaker. So he lost. He's out.
Is he a Republican, McCarthy? Or
Yeah.
He is, eh?
Yeah. They have the.
Do they have the majority in
They
the
have
House?
it. It's a
they
very
have the majority, and he got voted out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because there were, I think, eight Republicans that voted with the Democrats, and the Democrats gave nothing to him.
Yeah.
So the interim, it's getting dirty. It's getting dirty. I read right before coming in that there's an interim speaker by the time that they elect a new one, who is on the side of McCarthy, and he was so angry about what happened. The first thing that he did, he expelled Nancy Pelosi. He requested that Nancy Pelosi move her office. Because I guess, I don't know, maybe she has, I don't know what kind of advantage she has for being, a speaker for such a long time. She has whatever office, I don't know where, in Congress. And the first thing was for him to get her out. He's like, you have 24 hours to pack your shit and get the fuck out of there. So things are shaking up. I'm not sure what's going on over there, and it's crucial because now they're supposed to be preparing the budget. So if there is no budget, or if they don't figure out a way to if they don't get their shit in order and everything stalls, well, what happens to the troops? What happens to the military aid? We're going back to Ukraine, right? So Joe Biden, apparently from what I read yesterday, he called all the partners and said, don't worry about what's happening over here, our support for Ukraine. It seems as though the Ukraine is on top of the agenda for every fucking country. And every country, they have their own internal problems. I don't know why there's so much focus over there. Well, I know why.
It's a proxy.
I mean, I can understand it. I mean, they want to stick it to Russia, and they don't want Russia to win because this could be seen as a precedent for them to enter in any other country as well. There's probably a lot of pressure from NATO as well.
I don't think Russia has expansionist aims, though. I think that they're just trying to secure their western border.
I don't know. They did it. They did it in the early 2000s with Georgia. They did it in Chechnya as well. Now with Ukraine, and Ukraine didn't start now; it happened before. I remember Stephen Harper was in power in 2013 or 14 when they first occupied Crimea. But back then we had a prime minister with fucking balls. They had met. I can't remember which G meeting they met, and there was like an off. There was a mic that caught the conversation. And Harper, while saluting Putin, he's like, "Get the fuck out of Ukraine!"
Yeah,
and he was picked up by a mic. He's like, "What are you doing? You get the fuck out of Ukraine!" So at least we had a prime minister that could stand on his 2 feet and fucking show people who.
Well,
we
I
were.
think he was also more serious, and I think he was taken more seriously on the international stage. I really think. That Trudeau's a dilettante and an empty suit who's in way over his head.
Also, I heard, I don't know how true this is, but I watched a video about it, I think. Because Russia is so big and, a little difficult to defend, they always had kind of like these buffer states between Russia and enemies. All these countries.
Between Russia and
enemies.
And enemies.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? So Ukraine was in between Russia and Europe,
Western
Europe. So they always had these little countries around them. I think at the time of what was it? When they were communist, what was it called? USSR?
Yeah, the Soviet Union.
The Soviet Union. Yeah, they had about 30. They had 30 countries as a kind of like a buffer zone. So before you get to Russia, you got to get through these countries. So apparently,
it was all of Eastern Europe basically, which slowly. Got absorbed either in the EU or in NATO.
Even in Asia, they had a lot of countries like that.
Yeah.
I think it's been reduced to like 2, 3. So apparently, like the way they function is like that.
I still think Russia has a significant influence in Asia.
Yeah.
Obviously, when it comes to the West, I think that that trust, that bond has been broken. But the big argument now are all the sanctions actually even working with Russia? And there's a lot of analysts that I've been reading that are saying it's useless because just with the agreements and the partnerships and the friendship that Russia still holds with China and India, just there,
they can get everything they need.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with over 2 billion people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a much larger market there than there is with all the Western countries combined. So I'm not so sure what these sanctions are even doing.
What are the sanctions, do you know?
The sanctions are obviously political. There's a lot of politicians that are on blacklist. A lot of Russian assets have been seized in all these countries.
Overseas Russian assets?
Yeah. Bank accounts have been frozen, stuff like that, so that they can't get the money back into Russia. I don't know. I mean, is that anything?
I like Russian women.
They're pretty good. They're pretty decent.
Eastern European women
in general.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we still on?
I had friends who would freak out. Well, I had a friend that he would love to vacation in Ukraine. He would love it.
Because of the women?
Yeah.
No, because of the amazing beaches, the amazing all-inclusive resorts.
And he goes, it was easy. It was easy. He was a Lebanese man, and he goes, it was very easy for foreigners to pick up Ukrainian women, because apparently, how the mentality of the Ukrainian or Russian men in general, Eastern European men, it's very stoic. It's very quiet, the tough guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So not sensitive, not like speaker. Like
They like the hard attitude.
Huh?
They like hard men.
No, but the thing is, they get tired of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
So
okay.
apparently they like the romancer. So if you were a bit of a romantic, it was new to them. So it was apparently very easy to talk to them. They liked it a lot. Well, I don't know about now, but
All right, well, let's go.
Let's go. Let's pack our bags.
Yeah.
Speaking of Ukraine, you had sent me a link about Elon Musk coming into conflict with the Ukraine. What's up with this guy?
He posted a meme on Twitter/X the other day, and it's a picture of a kid in a classroom in school somewhere with this real intense look on his face.
Oh, I think I saw it. Yeah.
And the meme was something to the effect of, when you haven't asked other countries for $1 billion in the last 20 minutes or something like that. Like, it was a real shot. It was a shot at Zelensky.
Yeah.
And then the Ukrainian parliament fired back at him. And it was a pissing contest. It was a public pissing contest. He's a fascinating cat, that guy. Like, he's the wealthiest man in the world. He's one of the most influential people in the world. And he comports himself like a 14-year-old boy sometimes.
Yeah.
Just taking the piss out of people.
What is the point? Yeah, what's the point?
Like, he's like a kid with a fucking a hollowed out Bic pen shooting spitballs around the classroom. Really, that's what he's like. And I like him. You know, I get a charge out of him. Like, I find that he's likable in an impish kind of way.
It's fun. I enjoy the shit that he does, and he trolls all these people. It's like,
well, that's exactly what he does. To use a modern phrase, that's what he is. He's a troll.
The issue is that we're so not used to seeing these types of individuals take part in any of this discourse. Like, you don't see what's the Facebook guy, Zuckerberg getting involved in anything political. He's trying to maintain a very objective stance. Like, I'm here, I'm taking care of my business. I don't care what the fuck's going on. And you would imagine
that's because he's the human embodiment of milk. This man,
milk.
Yeah, he's just milk. You know, milk. I find like it's
he's
kind of
vanilla.
Yeah,
is what he's saying. Yeah.
But if I were in his shoes, I'd probably do the same, because if you think of your business being global, you don't want to be seen as someone that takes sides or whatever. So you just stay out of all the trouble and you focus on your business.
Hold on, he didn't really take a side with this meme though. He just called it out. He just called out what's happening.
And I think he's got so much money that he can do it. He's got
because the other day I saw something to the effect that he was criticizing the government because of the border. I think he was at the border of Mexico. He went to visit some. I think he was at the wall or whatever, and he put out a tweet: "Why are we sending more money to Ukraine when we should be taking care of refugees or doing something about the refugee situation in the U.S.?" So
hold on, but that's not taking. He went somewhere. He observed the situation, and he made an assessment. How's that taking a political stance, though?
Well, no, you're politicizing, because when you're saying, why are you sending money to Ukraine? It's definitely taking a position.
But he's what kind of political
position against Biden, who's been sending billions of dollars to Ukraine when you should be spending it locally?
He didn't mention Biden. He didn't.
Yeah, but dude, when you're criticizing the government's position on sending any funds elsewhere, you're kind of taking a position against them. So even though he doesn't say, "Hey, Biden, what are you doing?" it's kind of indirectly saying, "What are you doing?" You don't think
that's
so?
Not really taking a position.
Yeah, it is, dude. You're there and you're looking at a situation unfolding at the border.
Yeah.
And you're questioning, why is our government sending money abroad and not taking care of the situation at home?
Yeah,
that's a direct attack on. But it's a direct attack on the government.
It's not an attack if you're asking a question.
Well, yeah, you're questioning the government's motive, so you're obviously taking a political position. I'm not saying he's for or against Biden. All I'm saying is that he's putting himself on the ground and saying, "Look, this is where I stand. The money should be going here," kind of thing. And also, you're you're an influencer, man. People are listening to you. He knows that. He's not a dumb guy. No. He knows that whatever he puts out there, he's going to get traction.
No.
You know? What's happening with this fight, by the way, with Zuckerberg? Is that thing happening?
I was just going to ask you, wasn't it?
No, apparently that was like just a joke or something.
Yeah. That's so stupid. Yeah. Come on, man. That would have been so nice.
Yeah, seriously.
He got the...
Who do you think would have won?
I don't know, man.
Well, apparently does Zuckerberg not train in one of the martial arts?
I've seen videos of him actually training, and he looks pretty fucking good. But at the same time, Elon Musk is built like a fucking, if he gets some training. And I know George St. Pierre,
like a boat.
But George St. Pierre, I think he was in his camp. I think in the when
is that right?
Yeah. He had come out with a tweet saying, "Hey, man, I really respect what you're doing, and I'm a big fan of yours. Let me coach you." And I think a couple days later they were seen together, and I don't know if they actually sparred or whatever the hell you call it.
So who do you think would win?
I think Zuckerberg can fucking destroy him.
Yeah.
You, Ted?
I have no idea. Wouldn't have.
I think Elon Musk has retard strength. He would take him easy.
Doesn't know when to stop.
Superhuman.
He would run right through him.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Can you imagine having so much money you have no idea what to do with it?
Yeah. No, I can't actually.
That's a good problem.
Neither can I. Yeah.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Do we have time for one last thing? I know that we've criticized, the whole policy that the government has taken, on the vaccines and the mandatory stuff that we were forced to comply with. And this week, I don't know if you guys saw, but
I'm glad you brought that up.
The scientists behind the mRNA vaccine, the COVID vaccine, were just awarded the Nobel Prize
For what? In what?
for
Medicine?
for medicine or Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine. Yeah.
I thought for sure I was going to win that one this year.
But it's amazing to me because it's been documented quite a bit on how either ineffective it's been, problematic.
Well, the CDC recently came out. It said ever since the vaccines, over 120,000 people they died suddenly. No, there's no cause. There's not sudden death.
And again, just for everyone listening, we're not here suggesting that we're not anti-vaccine or anything like that. We're just, there's a lot of documented cases where these vaccines didn't do the job that they were supposed to do.
We're not talking about every vaccine. We're talking about these ones.
This
we're
vaccine,
talking about you know what I mean? I'm not saying vaccines are
So
bad.
the fact that they're pushing this and saying, congratulations for what you've done. For me, I still question the fact that they were able to come up with a vaccine in such short time. That's a first.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to read Robert Malone and his reaction to that, because Robert Malone is a doctor and researcher who claims and who has been given credit by others for coming up with that vaccine.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And he said that these two, for lack of a better term, manipulated the vaccine into what ended up being distributed.
Right.
And has allegedly caused a lot of complications and a lot of vaccine injuries. So I was surprised to see that, and a couple of people also have pointed out that the Nobel Committee a number of decades ago also gave the prize to the person who developed the frontal lobotomy. Seriously.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
Oh man.
take it with a grain of salt. They gave the fucking Nobel Prize in Literature to Bob fucking Dylan.
Yeah, I
One
remember
year.
that.
Bob
Yeah.
Dylan.
Come on, man. Bob Dylan.
Hold on, because here's my issue in life.
In life.
I'm faces. I see faces.
Okay.
Forget the faces. You probably have never seen this guy because he's not like that much of a public figure.
Yeah.
But it's
a bit of a
But it's
recluse.
Bob Dylan, dude.
Yeah, famous songwriter, famous from the
What kind of
from the
song?
60s,
It's
60s
folk
and 70s.
folk rock.
Yeah. And he is a good songwriter, but the fucking
great.
Nobel Prize for literature. Come on.
Well, as a poet, though, and I mean, I can understand that more than this, than them giving it to the vaccine.
Yeah,
people.
From a particular perspective, yes, I don't disagree with you. I just have never been a big Bob Dylan fan.
Oh yeah,
Guy couldn't carry a tune in a fucking wheelbarrow.
he sucks as a singer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's much more praised because of his music and his writing.
Yeah, his writing,
which
yeah.
would make sense, in terms.
But
of
he's
the,
also a miserable fuck too. Like he doesn't talk to his audience when he plays live. He's miserable. He's miserable. The guy's, he leads a charmed existence and he's fucking miserable.
Does he still sing? He's still out there? He's still touring?
I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure.
He must be old now. Bob Dylan must be in his 80s,
He'd
no?
be pushing 80 if he's not there yet. Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Huge thank you to everyone that came on live with us, that chatted with us. Thank you for
thanks
coming.
for coming on the chat line. I like that. You got to show me how to get there so I can read those.
You have I'll show you on the app there. Make sure to subscribe.
We've been attacked. We've been
it's
attacked.
Phil.
We've been attacked.
Thank you for joining us on this lovely morning show. I just wanted to pop in here, make sure everything's on the up and up. Get over here, stick your thigh next to mine, and remind everyone to go watch my new podcast every Sunday. Hey, I'll plug it in every time you ask me to, George. No problem.
Hey.
I know this is a respectable morning show, but I just wanted to come in and say hello.
Hey, Phil.
I missed the room. Did you do your plugs? No. Make sure to go to patreon.com/Pantelis where you can get all of the stuff that all those proles, those dirty proletariat, don't have access to. Early access,
Make us influential enough that we have to register with the government.
I think we are probably 16 views from it.
Really,
Did you guys
eh?
talk about it? Yeah. Smart. Now we're gonna have to get registered, guys. Pantelis.com. PantelisComedy.com is where you get all kinds of information about tours and stuff. Ted, Man of Bird on the tweet
me.
XX. I don't know what to call it.
Great
anymore.
handle, by the way.
Man of Bird?
Man of Bird?
Yeah. Ever been to Bird of Man?
I have not.
It's a delicious restaurant.
Oh, yeah?
It's not, I made it up.
Okay.
Poseidon, the Poseidon, Poseidon.com. And me, because I'm not even part of the show anymore, battlebattles.com. And they will be back. George, say goodbye.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in. Ciao.
How dare you?